يلا يلا خير يلا خير يلا خير गाड़ी में आवाज को आगे में आवाज को मोटर ही
September 25, 2025. Across Beijing and the nearby mountain villages, piercing emergency sirens shattered the morning silence. What started as a sharp alarm quickly became a non-stop roar, an urgent call for people to run, to leave, to survive. The capital city and its rugged outskirts were thrown into chaos. Sirens wailed like a warning chant, echoing off tall buildings and steep cliffs. Flood horns blared in every district, forming a deafening wall of sound. The message was simple, but terrifying. Get out now, or risk being swallowed by the flood. Imagine standing in your own neighborhood when that happens. Alarms screaming, neighbors scrambling, families grabbing whatever they can before racing to higher ground. That's not just a warning, that's survival in real time. In the western and northern highlands, places like Menyugu, Fangshan, Huairou, and Chongping, nature showed no mercy. Once peaceful rivers swelled into violent torrents. Water crashed through valleys with unstoppable force. Think about bridges, structures we usually trust, built strong enough to carry thousands of cars a day. Here, they didn't last minutes. The flood ripped them apart like toys, breaking concrete and steel as though they were nothing. Spanning bridges collapsed, sinking deep into muddy floodwaters. Structures that had stood strong for generations, made of stone and steel, were ripped apart as if they were nothing. In highland villages, entire houses perched on steep hillsides were swept away. Powerful mudflows and sudden flash floods stripped homes right off their foundations, leaving behind empty ground where families once lived. Roads that had been carved carefully into mountain slopes didn't stand a chance. Pavement peeled away like sheets of paper. Landslides, triggered by waterlogged soil, completely wiped out pathways that once connected small rural towns to the city. Cars and trucks, many were swallowed whole. Some floated off like abandoned toys, while others were jammed beneath rubble. Shocking images from nearby towns showed vehicles half buried in raging brown waters. Some overturned, others stacked grotesquely on top of one another like a junkyard nightmare. Across those rugged hills, the destruction was staggering. More than 240 bridges were damaged or completely destroyed. Over 24,000 homes now lie in ruins. According to early updates from local officials, while the human toll is still uncertain, more than 1 million residents had to be evacuated. And that's huge. We're talking about one of the largest evacuations in modern times. From busy downtown neighborhoods to remote mountain villages, families were rushed out ahead of the rising floodwaters. In districts like Menyugu, Fangan, Chongping, and Hiru, emergency crews scrambled day and night to move villagers to safety. But with so many people trying to leave at once, roads turned into gridlocked escape routes. Convoys of buses, trucks, and cars crawled through the torrential rain. Headlights cut through the darkness, reflecting off sheets of water. Temporary shelters, stadiums, schools, and public halls were turned into makeshift safe zones. Places once filled with everyday life now served as crowded sanctuaries.
Hazard zones.
while this mass relocation likely saved countless lives, the losses are still devastating. Homes, infrastructure, entire communities gone. The emotional toll? Immeasurable. Imagine losing everything you know in a single night. Geography only made matters worse. Beijing's natural bowl-shaped terrain acted like a giant trap, amplifying the impact of the storm. That's why mudslides and flash floods were so widespread, making this disaster one of the most severe in recent memory. Every bit of rain pouring off the steep slopes rushed into narrow valleys and streams, turning them into raging rivers of destruction. Torrents ripped down the hillsides, carving out new channels where none had ever been before. Trees were uprooted, homes lost their foundations. It was nature showing its raw, unforgiving power. And then came the blackouts. Power went down. Cell towers stopped working. Remote villages were completely cut off from the outside world. Roads collapsed, bridges washed away, and entire communities were left stranded with no way out. In some places, the only hope for rescue came from helicopters or small teams trudging through dangerous, muddy terrain on foot. The worst part? The storm wasn't done. Forecasts warned that the heavy rain could continue for days, keeping the entire region on edge. Officials cautioned that more evacuations might be needed, especially in the most vulnerable mountain areas, unless the skies cleared up. What started as loud emergency sirens on September 23rd had escalated into a full-blown disaster by the 25th. Floodwaters tore through both the mountain districts and the city's outer neighborhoods. Nearly 1 million people were forced to flee, but destruction still spread. Bridges snapped like matchsticks, homes were crushed, cars were swallowed by the water, and entire transportation networks were ripped apart. And here's the reality. The danger isn't over. Meteorologists expect even more heavy rainfall, threatening to push the crisis into an even darker chapter. Entire regions are hanging by a thread, waiting for relief that just hasn't come yet. If this video gave you a clear picture of what's happening, make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe. Your support is what keeps us going. And don't forget to ring the bell so you'll always stay updated with real, straightforward reports. Some of the visuals you see here are used for illustration purposes and may not show the exact events as they happened, but they do capture the scale of this unfolding emergency. Thanks for watching, stay informed, and most importantly, stay safe.